Welcome back to the Systemist Show. Thank you guys for coming. We're going to have an amazing show today. I have a special guest, Pia, who's here, and she's going to talk to you guys as well as myself. And we're pretty much talking about the leadership from the entrepreneurial eye. And pretty much, how leaders, perceive leadership in different areas of leadership. So I want to introduce Pia to everybody. So please introduce yourself to the people.
Thank you so much. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. So yeah, my name is Pia Pranamagrud, and I am a woman's personal mastery and leadership coach. I've been working inside of leadership for, 15 years by now. I also am a holistic counselor, and I also do a type of trauma-informed work called biodynamic breath and trauma release. So I wear quite a few hats, but at the end of the day, it's all about working with women to really empower them to be able to live their most amazing life from a place of leadership, but also from a place of authenticity. I'm really happy to be here, and thanks again for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming. If this is your first time tuning in, please like. Right, in the entrepreneurial eye. I think it's amazing because the first thing we're going to talk about is composure. It's nothing like having a certain type of composure. You want to keep your calm and keep your cool when you're in certain situations, especially as a leader, because people are looking to you. People are looking at you, right? They're looking for guidance, for direction. And when you have that composure, it makes you look like you know what you're doing and you've been doing it for a while. Within the work that you do, Pia, can you talk a little bit about, the importance of having composure?
Sure. Well, I've worked with a lot of big organizations over many years looking at leadership. And one of the things that I've noticed very often is that we're living in a very, very busy, demanding world, more so I think than ever. And what I find is that leaders, and by the way, when I talk about leadership, it doesn't necessarily have to be a role. It could also be very much leading your life. But what I've seen over the years is that often leaders are so busy they don't have time to stop and reflect. And I think that's a really important piece around leadership and you're calling it composure, but that taking the time to stop and to notice what's happening in the moment. Because very often we're busy about thinking about what happened yesterday or worrying about what's coming tomorrow. But actually, the only thing we have is this moment. And so how to stay present in this moment so that you can also appreciate the inner cues. And by inner cues, I mean the way in which your intelligence or your wisdom or your mind and body communicates with you to give you a sense of what's appropriate for this moment. But because most of us, we're just kind of running around being so busy, we don't take that all important pause to just go, okay, let's stop and let's feel this moment and see what is needed. That, I would say, is a really important piece around composure.
I love that you said that because a lot of times we don't stop, right? A lot of times we're in this go, go, go mentality or go, go space. I think for everybody, when COVID hit, that was the first time for us to stand still, right? For us to get that kind of composure back, for us kind of to get that who we are in essence and what we're here for back. But it's a lot of people that might be out there now that are saying to themselves, I have no composure because I'm ready to get to the outside world, right? It's like I'm ready to just run and just, explore all the things that, they felt was normal at one point in time. But right now, we know that it was going to take a little while for us to go back to the new norm of what it used to be.
Mm.
Having that composure, I think, is important in anything you do, especially leadership, because the fact that you're running a business, you're running a team, you're running individuals, employees, whatever it is underneath you, it's like they're looking for you, right? They're looking for you to do all the things that you know how to do, but what they're also looking for is they're looking for you to be sophisticated in a way where you represent them, because they represent you just like you represent them and you represent the company. So that composure, I think, is super important and super key. And it's like the glue to holding everything together. It's because when you have a level head and you can think about things and you can say to yourself, I have enough composure to be able to take my business to the next level, but not only that, take my team, take my employees to the next level. Like, so when it comes to composure, like, what would you tell people who either have a team or are doing it solo that they need to have?
Well, I think part of leadership is to create a situation where people want to follow you, right? And if they cannot trust that you have their back, but also that you can show up when it matters. The trick with that is then also, let's say if you are running, you're in charge of a team, they might not trust you because they need to be able to trust that you can be present enough in a moment to be able to make those all important decisions, and those important decisions that are guiding them also. And so when again and again, I've seen leaders who are very much just in it for themselves, and they think about themselves first and foremost. But I would say, part of leadership is also to look at the whole. And that's sometimes the tricky part with being a leader, because it's not just about us. That could be in your life as, leading your life just as an entrepreneur and a mother and all the other hats you wear. But the important thing, I think, is to build a level of trust that people want to follow you, and not just that you're pushing them in a certain direction. Instead, you are bringing them along with you. And part of that is that composure I think you're talking about, is having a level-headed and calm demeanor under pressure. And in order to get that, you don't just magically create that. It is a conscious decision in your life to start pausing, in your life to start noticing what's going on for you, instead of just rushing around like a headless chicken. And for example, in some of the programs that I've taught over the years, is that we actually cover things like mindfulness. We cover things like meditation and simple breathing techniques, so that to learn that at any moment when things are perhaps a little bit hairy, maybe it's a stressful situation, and instead of being kind of drawn into all the drama or the story that's going on, that there's an inner silence that allows you to, that composure you're talking about. It's like, okay, from here I can make decisions.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. And for all of you that are tuning in, I've been talking to Pia about, just leadership presence from an entrepreneurial eye. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk to Pia some more. you guys for tuning in. If you're just joining us, I've been talking to Pia in regards to leadership presence from an entrepreneurial mind, or I rather, right? So we've been talking about composure. So now we're going to get into more of the meaty stuff, right? Into the confidence and credibility. Because I think as a leader, you need to be confident in what you do, but you need to be confident also in the skills that you have, the skill sets that you've either been trained in or the skill sets that you have acquired over time. And I think sometimes as leaders, we don't have the confidence to show up and be who we are and dominate in our field. And I feel like a lot of times in this leadership role and this entrepreneurial space, if you don't have the confidence in what you do, who you serve, and just, your work in general, people are not going to gravitate towards that. They want somebody who's very confident, knows what they're doing, knows how to just dominate in their field. So can you talk to them a little bit about, confidence and
Absolutely. With confidence, I would say that most of the time, leaders, if we look at it from a perspective of inside of an organization, they build themselves up. They kind of climb the corporate ladder. And one of the challenges with that is that often you can work super hard and then you get a promotion and then you get another promotion. Next thing you know, suddenly you're sitting there and you are meant to lead other people. And yet you didn't learn those skills. Nobody sent you to that training. So the challenge with that is that people might not necessarily in that situation feel particularly confident when they haven't got those skills. But one of the things that for myself personally that I've noticed is that leaders, people that build their confidence, they work on their resilience. They work on their ability to manage themselves and get back up after adverse situation, let's just say. They work on things like support seeking, for example. When a leader tries to do everything on their own, and I think sometimes that happens with leaders, perhaps new leaders that don't necessarily have the experience, then they want to show that they can do it and they try and do everything on their own, which of course is not possible. So I think part of confidence is about a certain type of mindset, that it's not me and the rest of them. It's like, this is us. The mindset of we have to do that, we have certain tasks to do, we have certain goals to reach, and we have to do it together. For myself, one of the other things that I find super powerful is to also stay curious, because part of confidence is having a learner's mindset, and not to feel that you have reached some sort of destination just because you are in a particular leadership role. And instead, having a learner's mindset to see, I don't have all the answers, but together we can come up with the answers. And I suppose a learner mindset is kind of the opposite of being cocky and thinking that, I have the solution to everything. When you are curious as a leader, curious to figure out, well, what don't I know yet? Or what are the possibilities in this particular situation? Curiosity supports the learning mindset to always be learning and growing. And I suppose also a big piece for me around, probably the biggest piece for me around confidence is to that curiosity and that learner mindset has to also come to you personally, and to be curious about who am I really, what's important to me, and what's the kind of leader that I want to be. And that actually comes before everything else. It's to really be curious about who you are as a person. And over the years learning, working in leadership, again, it comes back down to time. A lot of busy professionals, they don't stop to figure out, well, who am I? And from there, how can I communicate? How can I lead? How can I be that guiding light that the people in my organization needs? So learning to getting curious about, what are my values, for example? What do I stand for? What are my principles? These are things that guide you as a human being. And until you have some of those answers, I think the confidence that you're talking about isn't really real. It's not really authentic. It's got to start with your knowing yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then it becomes, am I even credible, right? Credibility is important because if your confidence level isn't on 100 or isn't where it's supposed to be, then it remains to say, how credible are you, right? And no matter what you do as a leader or in the industry, right? You want people to know that you're credible in the field that you're an expert at, right? Whatever job it is that you work, whatever it is that you do. But you have to match, your credibility has to match your confidence. And I think a lot of times our confidence doesn't match, the fact that we are credible in the area that we dominate in, the area that we specialize in. I know for me, there was a period of time that I was the girl behind the scenes. Like, I really talked about what I did. I just did what I did, and nobody really knew me. I was credible, but I wasn't really credible to the people that I needed to be credible to, because they didn't know what I did, right? Because I didn't have that confidence to show up and say, this is who I am, this is what I do, I'm here, right? So it's like people are like, oh, this is what you do. I never knew that. So if people would have known what I did way before I started to really, be confident and show up and have that credibility, I think me as a leader and me in my entrepreneurial journey would have been a little bit different. And I think sometimes it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, how much you've invested. It's the fact that, are you credible, right? Have you put in that time to let people know what you do? Sometimes they say you should never talk about what you do because that's too confident or too cocky. No, it's not confident or cocky. It's just a matter of, you want people to know that if they need something, you're here and this is what you do. So I think that credibility piece is super important when it comes to leadership. Is there anything you would like to say around credibility, and how it ties in to the leadership aspect of it?
Absolutely. And this is not a term that I've created. It's I'm not quite sure who created it, but there's, inside of leadership, there's something called the leadership shadow. And the leadership shadow, if you can imagine, it's like, what do people say about you when you're not there? And I'm not talking about gossiping. I'm talking about, if you can imagine, the shadow that your body creates. Everything about you creates that shadow. And so the leadership shadow, the foundation of it are its values. And your values is like a moral compass. It it shows you or reminds you what's most important to you. It guides all your decisions and it guides your behavior. And so at the foundation, the leadership shadow is about values. But then it's also about what you say how you act, what you measure, and what you prioritize. And all that is around how you do that consistently. So part of credibility is that I know what to expect from you because there's a consistency in how you show up. There's a consistency in the things that you're saying and the way that you act. There's a consistency in what you prioritize and what you measure. So that I know what to expect from you. It's like perhaps, integrity, for example, is one of my top values. You know, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, right? And that seeps into everything I do, everything I say, everything about how I lead. That is communicated often indirectly, but people know what to expect from me because of it. And so that's where I believe also credibility comes from, when there's a consistency in how you show up. It's not just about how good you are at what you do, but can I rely on you to show up the way that you say you're going to show up? That for me is all important around credibility.
Right. And I'm glad that you said that. So we're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about the leadership presence, right? Because I think it's super important. So stay tuned. We're going to take a break and come back. Welcome back. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, I've been talking to Pia about leadership from the entrepreneurial eye. We've been talking about composure, confidence, and even credibility, right? In the leadership roles and the leadership world. Now we're going to talk about connections and conquer. I think that's super important because when you compose yourself, right? When you have confidence, when you have that credibility, you're like, what's next? It's those connections you make in the leadership world. So if you're out there and you're a leader, which you should be in your own right, just respond and say, I'm a leader. I'm a leader in whatever it is that you do. So if you're, a life coach, if you're a mindset coach, say, I'm a leader in mindset work, or I'm a leader in mindset coaching. So I know that you're out there. But the fact remains is that the connections are super important. The more connections you make, the more people you meet, the better off you become. Now you get to talk to people about what you do, and you get to talk to people and find out, what they need, and not only what they need, how you can collaborate, partner, right? And then it's like you want to conquer and you want to dominate the space that you're in. So it's pretty much like making the main thing the main thing. And that's what you have to do in this whole leadership world. So can you kind of talk to the people out there that are watching, that are tuning in, about that connection and that conquer spirit of leadership?
Yeah, great. When it comes to connection, first of all, humans are hardwired for connection. So that's just not outside of the workplace. That's equally important in the workplace. And it's important to be intentional also about who are the people that I need to have in my sphere, and start looking for those opportunities. Always be on the lookout for who can I make a difference to and who can make a difference to me. And so, I might call it one exercise I do in one of the programs that I run is we talk about uh, having your stakeholder map. Now, stakeholders are all the people that may at some point support you in your role, in all your accountabilities. And just like also what you said earlier about if people don't know who you are and what you're about, how can they support you? And so, I think great leaders, they have a natural way of just looking and reaching out to people and asking for support or just asking to connect. And for myself personally, one of the things that I find for myself is that I've never been afraid to ask. I've never been afraid to ask for an opportunity or ask to connect or reach out to somebody that I think might be able to support me or we might be able to collaborate in some way. And I think that's a really I think that's a good way to look at things like, if I don't ask, I won't get, but maybe just maybe I might get that connection. And I remember like one time I literally just said, is there room for my skills on this project? And that question led me to I think it was about a 5-year leadership stint, running leadership programs all over Asia, which I'm normally based in Asia. And often it's about when you have, influential, important people in your life, they can support you in your leadership role. They can support you to, might get mentorship from them, or you might get ideas. And it starts with, I think, you asking. It could be anything like the question I asked, but it could also be, do you want to go for a coffee? Do you want to have lunch together? And start looking for those opportunities. Because I think at the end of the day, especially in entrepreneurship, often that can feel very lonely inside of entrepreneurship. It can also feel lonely when you are a leader because everyone's looking to you for solutions, for decisions. And that's why it's super important for leaders to then broaden their network, especially outside perhaps the organization they're working in, so that they can also be supported.
Right, which you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right when it comes to that connection, that conquer, and the fact that leadership is super important. Whichever position you hold as a leader, you need to define your role as a leader and where your place is in any business that you have, whether it's a solo business, a partner business, whatever it is. You need to own where you are in your leadership journey, right? So for everybody who's tuning in and for who's listening, can you please let people know how they can get in touch with you if they want to know more about what you do?
Sure. Probably the easiest place to go is to my LinkedIn, which is my name, Pia Magrude. You can also find me on Instagram under Pia Prana, and Facebook also my name, Pia.Magrude. Those are probably the 3 best places to find me.
Is there anything you'd like to tell people?
I think that in any journey, any leadership journey you are on, it could be you're at the beginning or you've been in leadership for many years, the end of the day, people need to trust you. People need to know that they can rely on you. And that's got to start with you trusting yourself. So building a solid inner world, by that, taking time to meditate, taking time to perhaps be in nature or do whatever you need to do to fill up your own cup. Kind of like the analogy of being on an airplane. Some of us might still remember what it's like being on an airplane, but to first you've got to put the gas, not gas mask, what am I saying? Oxygen mask first, and then whoever you're taking care of, let's say you're traveling with one of your children. And the same thing, you have got to strengthen your core. And part of that is really to get to know yourself and take the time to really know, who am I? What do I stand for? What's important to me? And from there, and as you consistently come from that place, consistently act and say the things that come from where who you are at the core, that's going to create trustability, and that will support your people, be it collaborators or people that you manage, to want to follow you, to want to engage with you, to want to collaborate with you.
Wow. I want to say thank you so much, Pia, for coming. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us talking about leadership from the entrepreneur eye, talking about that composure, that confidence, that credibility, that connection, that conquer. These are all qualities that you're going to need to dominate in whatever area it is that you specialize in. So please join us next week at the same time, same place, for us to just have those candid conversations and to have the conversations around different things that are happening within the world. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.